Right, welcome to the Secret Project painting tutorial. It's for my Tau Auxiliary Tactical Droid Army. So taking the Star Wars Legion models here, specifically the Trade Federation battle droids, turning it into an army that I can use in Warhammer 40,000. So if you haven't seen the series already, just backtrack through the Secret Project. But since the film came out, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I just love the whole battle scene with the droids against the Gungans, and just the whole design concept of the droids, from the tanks to the regular battle droids to the Droidekas here, which we're going to do a tutorial on how to paint those here in this video. Always loved the concept, always been waiting for models to come out, and then wondered, well, what about using 40k as an excuse to paint up a whole army of these, and then trying to see if they can match in with any of the factions. Pretty much settled on running these as a Tau auxiliary army, so just using the rules from the Tau Codex, and that means I can use them in a game of 40k and use these fantastic miniatures here. So that's the plan. Painting a lot of droids at the moment to get this army pushed up to the next level, which at this point in filming is 1500 points. Painting up the battle tanks as well, so really making good progress. But a chance here for a tutorial. Perhaps the most challenging, because trying to get the colours right here for these Droidekas, but I think I've cracked it, and I'm going to share that with you in this video. You can use it to paint these, but you're also welcome to take this colour skill elements from it and apply it to a 40k army that you're painting at the moment. So lots can be picked up from these kind of videos. There's also a chance to develop my painting tutorial, starting to bring in some of the newer paints that are available, such as Games Workshop contrast paints. You're going to see them in action here in this video. And also some of the technical paints. I've been working on different basing techniques, so I'm going to try a new technique here in this video. I've been discussing it a fair bit with Phoenix Lords, with some of the guys on the channel, and trying to settle down on a new approach, different way of doing basing, hopefully an improvement as well. So there's that to share in the video as well. So that's the current basing, which I think I'm going to change, but we'll go through the paints first of all for painting this thing up here, the Droidekas, which is a fantastic concept. This droid that can roll up into a ball, roll around, then deploy itself, and then just unleash a torrent of firepower. It's such a good concept. It's so great to get these painted up for my Tau auxiliary army. So if I go to, I'm going to show you a bit of the artwork here. This is tricky trying to get these colours right. So obviously deep metallics here, you've got the glow of the eyes, it's easily done. It's a couple of blaster shots coming out from this thing. But there's also this brassy, bronzy kind of colour that's very iconic to these in the film. So we're going to try and replicate that as best as we can here in this tutorial. I want to try and go by the standard colour scheme, the recognisable colour scheme for these. So materials then. There's actually a pretty efficient technique as well, pretty quick for some great results. Brushes, the usual stuff that you'll need. I've built a model here, I'll run through what you need for that as well. So paints for doing the new basing, Catachan Flesh. Then you'll need Stormhost Silver, Nuln Oil, Agrax Earthshade, washes, Abaddon Black, quite crucial on this one, Brass Scorpion. Then for the eyes, the Evil Sunz Scarlet, and then Trollslayer Orange. And then quite a crucial paint here as well, it's Contrast Flesh Tearers Red to be used here. Also, then for the basing, it's Technical Armageddon Dust here. So it's sort of a debut for this in my tutorials, but this is excellent stuff. Games Workshop. Then Ushabti Bone, also Steel Legion Drab. Here, as you see, some of these paints are optional, you can use them if you want to, but for the full process, that's the ones that I have. And then for sprays here, which will save you tons of time, departing from my usual silver here, but instead going for lead Belcher from Games Workshop, the deeper kind of metallic colour from them. Excellent spray, real nice quality spray. Then using Trench Brown from Colourforge, sort of a standard brown colour, as you see here on the base. And then to finish the whole thing off, still heartily recommend Munitorum Varnish from Games Workshop. about the best varnish that there is. Really good, nice kind of satin finish, preserves the metallics really nicely, but not too glossy to spoil other colours, so I think that's fantastic varnish to use. So that's the materials that you need. Then what I've done here is built and constructed the whole model, so stuck the whole thing together. Then I have stuck it to the base, because you've then got something to hold on to whilst you're working on it, because it's quite a fragile model. And there's a fair few washes and things. You can end up just making a mess by touching the actual model itself. So I've just mounted it onto the base and glued it on, and then sprayed the base. It doesn't really what brown precisely you're using, because it's all been painted over anyway for this one. Usually that's different to my basing. Previously was I just sprayed the whole thing, highlighted the whole thing, the trim was done. This is different now. I'll be using a different basing process, and then I'll be painting the trim. So really the actual brown, it's not so important. It's the general medium brown kind of colour. You can even use leather brown from army paint, so it would do the same kind of job as well. Just a general brown here, just to get the base colour done. Alright, so first colour we're going to do is, and going by the artwork, there's other pictures around, but I've tried to copy the artwork as best as possible. So it's this, marking out this bronzy, brassy, strange alien kind of colour here. I'm going to try and get from this looking something like this, a bit of a process involved. So the first one, perhaps a bit of a surprise, Flesh Tear is red here, so we're going to combine that, it's contrast paint, going to go directly onto the metallic, and the metallic will partly come through and give you that kind of metallic kind of shimmer to it. So I've got sort of a medium sized brush. I might just go to something a little bit smaller, and I'm looking just to simply paint that onto the area. So this shoulder pad here of the edges is this colour, so putting it on there like so. I'm just going to catch all the edges. I'm not going to bother the inside, I'll leave that, I'll just shade that. I don't think there's any need to paint that and get too hung up on doing that one. Just catch all the sides of that, and then just with good even brush strokes, just capture that whole side panel. Like so. Brilliant colour. It's a great finish when you've got the metallics semi showing through. To be using these contrast paints, it's taken a while. It's a bit of a transition. It's a different process, different style, different techniques, but they are a good job. There's that one. So already starting to get the correct colour scheme going on here. And again, the same kind of process. I'm not going to worry about the inside of this panel, this larger back panel here, but I will catch the sides with the side of the brush. Just run that around. And I'm painting straight onto the spray paint here. It doesn't seem to be a problem. And then I'll then start filling this in. I can catch the insides in between, but being careful because I want to merge behind the panel here. You can't really see them. And then just using the brush, just being gentle with the brush, and then flooding into, see that going on, flooding into all the details. So applying the paint, but working it into these cracks and crevices just to make sure it's all picked out just in one coat. This all it'll be one coat here. This will come up quite nice. Get a lovely semi-metallic finish with this. And then I'm just going to run the brush nice and even. That's the colour going on. It's looking alright here. So I'll go around the rest of this model, picking out these colours, and then I'll come back and show you exactly where I've been, so you've got a bit of a guide where to paint on this. But if you're painting something for 40k, yeah, your basic metal base colour, sort of darker metallic going on, and the spot colour here, you can imagine this on Space Marine shoulder pads or on panels of Space Marine vehicles would look particularly nice. There's a great colour scheme process here, not just for Star Wars stuff, but for regular 40k models as well. So that's that done. It's a major step forward. This single base colour, immediately you've got the iconic look of these things. So it's these flappy bits in here, not the insides of it, but the edges and the back of them. 1 and 2. The circular ball underneath, you can see I've done it, not the legs. And I've left this central part here of metallic, well, 2 shoulder pads which we've shown already, and then this main piece here along the back. I was actually a bit more careful, just did go in between these gaps here, because you could see them just a little bit, so I ran the brush, flipped over and then run the brush either side of the grating there at the back, all the way around, across the little neck piece, and then the head, apart from the little antennae at the front on the mouth, the rest of it. Not underneath those, no need to do underneath, it's hardly seen, you can just shade that. But just the top and the sides running around, so you've got something looking like that, like so. So let this dry entirely, and then we're going to start working on the regular metallic colour here. I guess actually what we could do before applying washes is do this darker piping, which is nice and straightforward to do. So for that you can go Abaddon Black, but I like to, black can be particularly strong, so I like to take Abaddon Black and then mix it with some metallic. So take the Stormhost Silver, mix it up. I would say not quite 50-50, a bit less than 50-50, so more black than silver, but something like that, sort of a darker steel kind of colour. I may have add a little bit more black to that, just to tone it down a little bit more. Okay, wash that brush out and then use a finer brush. So the areas to paint that, there's not too many, really, it's just the piping here at the back of the guns, just to change the colour tone around. So I'll use a finer brush and just pick those out using this paint. So, painting it on underneath, hold the model at one angle, paint all that I can see, rotate around, paint all that I can see, rotate again, rotate all that I can see just for that one area. Make a little mistake, take a washed out brush and just use the bristles to clean it off. That's that done. And just painting here. And you've got 2 tones going on. Just that, and do the other side. That all filled in. So it looks like you've taken sometimes some effort to distinguish different shades going on here, not just the whole thing in silver. So these cables, and run underneath. I've actually done this bit, just rotating around. Filling that in, and that's about it. Yeah, that's all done. So that's those done on the back just there. Right, next stage is to tone down, or to put the wash on the silver work here. It's already quite dark, so I think a coat of Nuln Oil. Being quite careful not to go there. I don't really need to or want to go over this red, Tempest red that's already been done. Sorry, Flesh Tearers red. And interrupt that at all. Don't really need to shade it or anything like that. Just leave it plain as it stands. Just working the Nuln Oil around those areas. So I can start here with these legs. Just a generous brush here. One side of the leg, back of the leg, other side of the leg, and behind the leg. I might just work my way around. It's quite a logical pattern here, so I'll do the other leg. Just to work my way around, make sure I get them down. And all the way up to the joint, and then just a bit behind the leg. Next leg, and also do that strap running down the middle of that ball there. It goes over a little bit, I can just tidy it up, but it's going to be too fussy. It's just shading up quite nice. Like so. So anywhere where that lead Belcher colour is, you can shade that with a wash. These little panels here, just fill those in. That's shading it up really well. So I'll go around and do the rest of them. Right, so now looking something like that. You can see it's shaded nicely. Need to let that completely dry before moving on to the next stage. Just so we can work with that. Don't want to don't want anything merging and smudging together. There he is. He's already making really good progress here. So it's going well. The great thing about these is I can put the washes onto this Games Workshop spray here. No need for varnishing. Had to do that previously with the Armour Painter models, the Armour Painter sprays here, but for the Games Workshop spray, the Nuln Oil has gone straight on, and no need for any preparation with varnishing and so on. So nice and straightforward. You spray them up, then just immediately start working on them. So he's looking really good already. So we'll let this one dry completely, and then move on to the next stage. Next stage, this is optional. You don't have to. Perhaps being a bit technical here, but you can take Agrax Earthshade and just work that into a few of the deeper crevices here. It's just to add a little bit of grime to this here. I don't want rust, because these things are fully functional, but a little bit of grime. Just so you're taking away from that sort of totally neutral black shade and adding in a little bit of grime here. So the joints, the knee joints, a few places, the elbow joints, shoulder joints. Behind that panel, if you need to strengthen it a little bit, but it's pretty much well in the shade there, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. Might do underneath the head here, just to get that shaded in, underneath these two guns. Roll it around, just near the ball joints here, kneecaps, knee joints. Just work that in there, just grime it up a little bit, just stabbing the brush in, not too fussy. And anywhere you think you want the shading to be strengthened a bit, then just add in a bit of that. Elbow joint, a bit there on the gun. And it just knocks that all down a tone. There's a little bit of industrial grime being added in. I could strengthen that shading like so. Yeah, and I suppose adds a bit more definition to that. So that's that done. Let that dry completely. Next, I've already started working on this, but the next colour once this is dry is to take your Stormhost Silver onto a generous sized brush here. It's a 0 with the bristles very slightly damp, but only very slightly. And then just running the brush out on the palette here to try and get rid of as much paint as possible. This paint stretches nicely. And then I'm not scrubbing it, but I'm dragging it across the details here. You can start to see that armour glinting up. The last thing I want to do is go too heavy on this. I'm just dragging it across just to catch a glint. Let's see if I can, this back leg here, I'm just going to catch a glint across the top of the armour. Down a bit. You can see the glint on that now. I think that illustrates it for you what I'm trying to do. Just really trying to add again to find the edge of this metal here. I don't want to end up repainting it. Just emphasising the edges that are already there. Like so. It dry brushes really nicely actually, this paint. It's a layer paint, Stormhost Silver from Games Workshop. Take a bit more into the brush. Be cautious at this stage, the brush is fully loaded, not to go too heavy on this. And any areas that are too deeply recessed, I'm just going to leave them. I like the tips of these guns and the barrels being picked out. Nice and strong, the eye is going to be drawn towards that. Be careful not to go over my black pipes that I've already picked out. Rotate around the back here. Just catch a little bit of the shoulders. Catch these legs, just make sure I've got all the angles. I'm scrubbing a fair bit with this and it's highlighting up nicely here. It does dry brush well. Move that out of the way. So you should be seeing a bit of a glint with the armour now. And these little antennae, we'll pick those out. Not scrubbing too hard, don't want to snap them. And again, being careful not to touch or go over this armour at all, that's for later on. I'm happy enough with how this has come out. There's a little bit more highlighting to do. There's a leg that I've missed. And you can hear the brush, it is scrubbing it along, and it's catching the edge of that armour quite nicely. So there's a genuine dry brush here. It's dried up a bit, so I'll take a bit more paint. Catch these edges. Happy enough. Hopefully you can see there's a nice glint on here now. And yeah, nice deep shading, recesses. Looking good enough. Yeah, there's this arm and elbow. Just behind it. This leg. Okay, happy enough. It's not taking too long. We've got a lovely effect going on here. Okay. So next stage, it's tricky getting the right paint for this one, but I reckon it's Brass Scorpion. A similar process, very, very light indeed. We're gonna put a highlight onto the edge now of this strange alien armor here. So that's the colour Brass Scorpion. And a brush that's nice and dry here, and again taking this colour. Taking some onto the brush, go to a new part of the palette here, and just run the brush across, getting it onto the bristles, keep dragging it out, starting to empty the bristles now, going to empty the bristles again. You can scrub onto a bit of tissue because better to go lighter on this than too heavy. So I can see if I can catch an edge here. Yeah, it's starting to. So now I'm going to try and dust across the back of this thing. Right, it's starting to go on okay. And then I'm going to emphasise more highlighting at the top and then fade to not much here at the bottom, so you get that kind of natural fading out here. Run the brush along the edge, just letting the actual sculpting work help me pick out the highlight across the top of the head. This is a very, very dry brush here, but it's metallic, it's picking out that pigment nicely. Emphasising the top of this pad, dragging the brush down. Again here, just scrubbing the brush to catch the edge of the armour. Then onto the ball down below, yeah. The two bits here at the back, these two panels. Scrubbing the brush up and down, scrubbing the brush up and down there. It's subtle, but it does shift that colour just a degree. Yeah, we've got a result here, so that's that kind of effect. Just there, so you've got two metallics going on, completely different to each other, different processes, and that's starting to stick out quite nicely. Just catch the front lip with that. And happy enough. Alright, so making really good progress. It's the process here, nice and straightforward. And again, think of a situation where you could be using this for like a Space Marine colour scheme, a Tau colour scheme. You know, just take the colour panels, the different processes you see, and apply it to your own project that you're working on. Zoomed in a bit so you can see. Hopefully you can see a bit of a glint of that brassy kind of effect. Like so. Yeah, it's picked it out nicely. Happy enough with that result. Yep. Now, next is the eyes. They're so tiny. I'm not even going to try and do the white dot and so on. I'm just going to pick them out in red. Well worth doing because they're quite iconic. There's 1, 2 and 3. They are sculpted on. You can see them, little round red domes. That's those. Do stick out a fair bit. A very iconic part of the design for these. Let that dry entirely. And then we'll just put a dot of, just to give them a little glow, help them to pop, stick out a little bit of Trollslayer Orange. Right, next, so Trollslayer Orange. Just on the tip of the brush. Just a dot of it, basically. One, 2, 3. In the ideal situation is you don't take out all the red, you leave some behind, it just helps to add to that glow and depth like so. But that sticks out nicely, as it should. Brilliant. Okay, so really, this model's complete. And it looks something like this. So a fair bit of work done on the metallics. Very straightforward, so quite doable. And then we've got the strange metallic across here, completely different process, different style to the other metal, but the two complement each other. We've got a nice finish here, nice emphasis on the eyes. So next we will work on the basing, a new process here for you to consider perhaps using your own projects. So for the basing, I'm going to use this here, Technical Armageddon Dust, textured paint. It's optional, but I've got a little tub of stones. Just to add a little bit of rougher stuff, I'm going to take like some of the smaller ones from here and drop a few in. You don't have to, this stuff will work fine as it is. If you want some larger stuff in there, then you can go ahead and add that on. Other things, you can add accessories, battlefield accessories, skulls, guns, armor, whatever onto there. You can plastic glue it, super glue it, whatever in place, and then add the stuff afterwards. So Technical Armageddon Dust. Then taking a brush that's, you don't mind wrecking here, because it's like a textured paint, it's not too favourable on brushes. But just taking a lump of it on the brush and just applying it to the model, to the base. I'm just going to work it, paint it. You really are just painting it onto the model, nice and neat to the feet. Spreading it around, just dabbing the brush, nice and even. Any mistakes at the edge is fine. Come back to that. Lift the next lump, spread it across. Looking something like that. Now I've thought about trying to replicate this stuff, buying the paint, buying the glue, adding the sand, mixing it up, but I just think you're going to hit trouble. And so for consistency and for the same result every time, and sometimes just cut and run and do a process that's easier, then I'm just going to stick with this stuff. The effects are brilliant and consistent. I can just buy a fresh tub of it. It's always going to be the same. So we get a bit neater around the feet here. Just really like sort of paint it in nice and tight and tidy. And work the paint, work the textured paint across here. You can go thicker or thinner, whatever you want to do. I've not gone super thin, not gone super thick. I want to stretch this out, just really naturally how it falls. Big clumps I'm sort of picking up and spreading on. But you're welcome to go thicker if you wish. Bear in mind I'm going to sprinkle some stuff on top here as well. So we'll stick with this here. Kind of result we're getting at the moment. It's not much to look at, not much excitement at this stage, but it will certainly change when this dries. So I'm just making sure I've got everything covered. That's looking alright. I'm going to take a few stones and add them in. Not too many. I've found a lot of the decent textures already there for you. I might be tempted just to tap that down a little bit just to get those stones embedded in place, like so, and that's that done. Stones are different colours to the stuff here, but that's not going to make too much difference. That won't be seen later on when we come to the next stages. But this has got to dry completely. The other thing is, once you've finished, is I'm going to run my thumb around the edge here just to catch that nice and tidy. Any flaky loose bits, uneven bits at the sides, just catching that. So that's completely done nice, tidy like so. Notice that I'm doing this basing technique and it's not affecting the model at all. There's no sprays or mess going anywhere else. I'm just painting it neat and it's preserving the model. There's no interruptions with that. So there he is. Let that dry completely and then we'll come back to this. So drying off, it looks something like that. So the next stage is to take Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to wash the entire base of this. So this is going to link the stones in. Remember, these stones are optional, but it'll link in the stones nicely to the basing. It's going to really define the basing, pick out the brilliant details on this, the real good texture that comes through with this technical paint. And just to tone it down and something we can highlight as well. So it's a semi-blend of previous techniques for painting, but just by using these technical paints. So a good sized brush, putting this stuff on, working it round. Remember, we're going to paint the rim here, so mistakes over the edge, you'd rather make sure you get to the edge as opposed to trying to avoid it. Not a big flood, but just a general application. It's a bit scary, it goes on quite dark looking, but it'll dry, it should dry up well. It's going around the feet again, it won't interrupt the silver. Just making sure I do flood around the feet though. Working through to the middle. This will tone these stones down to get them to match and it'll brown them up quite nicely. Depends what stones you're using, these are from a beach that I collected these from. And then now here. Just flood it through. Round to the edge. Picking up any excess and moving it on. Like so. And just filling in the stones here. A little bit more will do it. Again, you can try and mix up your own stuff, but for consistency, make sure you get the same process every time. Just use the wash. Okay, so that's gone on like so. Doesn't look much here, it looks like a muddy field at this point here. I can run around the rim, but it's not too much to worry about as far as that's concerned. The main concern is to make sure that it's shaded right up to the edge there. And just let that dry entirely. And really it'll be the highlighting that will really pick this out nicely, but we'll let that dry for the next stage. You've got to make sure this is completely dry. Right, so that's dry, looking something like that. A lot more sensible now. Then taking a Ushabti Bone onto like a square tip brush like this. This is a Games Workshop dry brush, S small dry brush. Squaring up onto the palette here with the brush, scrubbing it out, and then carefully, don't want to go too heavy. That's a little bit too heavy. Catch these stones here. Catch the whole thing. Should see it now if I scrub this. So evenly across the whole thing, stones and the basing, the same kind of treatment. Just a Ushabti Bone. Now you're starting to get the technique coming through. I'll go back to the Ushabti Bone. Scrub through to the middle. So it's going alright. The odd loose stone may flick off, but it's not too much of a problem. Load up the brush a bit more. Try to catch all the detail. Yeah, happy enough how that's come out. So now that's the kind of effect that you're getting. A little bit more in that. A bit more around the feet. You don't have to use the stones at all. I've just done it to add on just a little bit of scatter just to break it up, but you don't need it. It's up to you. But that's the kind of effect that you can expect. So then, I found that Ushabti Bone's a bit too pale, so I go for the Steel Legion Drab, which you mentioned earlier on. Take a bit of that, scrub that out onto the palette, and use that to dust the feet, or the legs here, whatever it is. If it's Space Marine, just to scrub them around the feet, but just round the base of the feet here. Just show where he's picked up some dust. Yeah. So around the feet up to the knees, most emphasis around near the ground. Might run a little bit under the ball here, just where the belly of this thing's just gone near the ground. Can't see a problem in doing that. Now it just plants the model onto the base to show that it belongs there, that it's walked through this ground and has picked up the dust as it's gone along. Something like that. There he is, just toning in quite nicely. And that pretty much finishes the model. So the model looking something like this. We've got the trim to do to finish off. Chance to tidy the whole thing up. Here's some experimental bases I've been working on. I think the texture on that's fantastic. That's the stones dropped into the technical paint there and highlighted with the Ushabti Bone. You can go for a grey equivalent here as well. They do a grey technical paint. I think it's around there somewhere. Yeah. So technical Astro Granite. So you can go for a grey version. Here's one of the droids with the same basing. Getting ready to switch, so you let me know in the comment section. These are the options here. So that's the previous basing. Not so keen on the gaudy green. It's okay, but it's sort of like the go-to basing that I've done for years on the channel, and so chance to do something else. There is the option to go grey, but using the new technical paints. Or I'm liking this one. I think matches in quite nicely here for the droids, matches in nicely with this one here, but you can leave your own comments and suggestions here. So the next colour is Catachan Flesh. This will do the trim. You choose whatever colour you want, but this is a lovely colour. And taking a larger brush, just a case of nice gentle strokes of the brush to paint this on. Because you've already sprayed your trim brown, just give you an excellent starting point. I want brush strokes really to be seen, so I'm just running the brush nice and gently along here. I think 2 coats should do it. She's going on well. Just rotating the model around. Should set this quite nicely. Like so. Brilliant. That's the kind of finish just there. I'll let that dry. Looks nice and tidy. So the brim looks now like it's not been neglected. So let that dry. I need to do a second coat on that just to get it nice and solid. That'll be that done. Now you may be wondering about flock. By all means you can have flock. I'm not entirely settled on what I'm going to do here. I think so. There's this gaudy green, which is fine. It's okay, but I don't want to repeat that back on here again. Going by the landscape here on this thing, dried out, but potential life there. I think perhaps more of a dead grass, but not completely dead grass type effect would be good. So I've got these grass tufts, but they're a knockdown tone compared to the green across here. There's green in them for sure, but not as strong as previous. Take these tufts, they'll stick on nicely onto here, no problem at all. Like so. I think that's just, there's some green going on with that, but not too much. This rim's still drying, so I can put, I'm going to add a second one up. Top one just here. Plant that on there. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm liking that. I do experiment. Well, I've got into the mode of experimenting with basing here. And then I reckon not just the long tufts, but to add in some other tone of grass as well, perhaps a couple. So I've just through the post, I've got a few packs of different types of grass. Get these off eBay for not very much at all. I've got patchy grass here, which is nice brown. Again, a little bit of green in that. I am liking this colour. I've got dead grass, which again is still green. There's green in it, but there's browns and there's cream colours, sort of straw colours going on with that as well. And also there's winter grass here, which is sort of a darker tone. I'm sort of sensing maybe go 50-50 and do patches of each. So you've got a real sort of subtle multicolour going on with the grass, sort of that natural kind of look. I'm not going to apply those at this stage. I'm not entirely settled, but you can keep a look out for that with the basing. But that just gives you an idea of if you want to add flock, you can. But I would go for sort of subtle colours as opposed to really sort of strong kind of green. because you don't want it to be glary and to take away from the emphasis, which is meant to be the model here. Just the basing should be complementary to what you've painted. So there he is, ready for war. Planning to run 9 of them in my list. They're deadly things here. But we've seen the base colours, the spraying just saves you tons of time. We've seen the basing with the technical paints and the results you can achieve with that. We've covered this sort of unique metal here, trying to match that in to the unique star for the Droidekas from Star Wars here, and the highlighting. We've picked out the eyes, but that is that all done. So I hope this video has been a help. By all means, take any of these techniques here. You can copy the basing, experiment with that, to take this colour scheme, or even take this process and apply it differently. So brush Scorpion Flesh Tearers red, but you could swap out a contrast and go for something else and a different highlight to get a similar result. So that's the idea of this video, is to show you simple techniques to achieve fast and effective results. But the droid army marches on. Keep a lookout for more tutorials. There is a request to do the tank. I'm planning to. I hope to do a tutorial showing you how to paint one of the AAT tanks for the Star Wars models as well. It's a fantastic kit, and working on that as a project as well. Keep a lookout for the Droid Army battle reports on the channel for this secret project. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time. Yeah, and before you go, do share on the Discord community if you are going to paint some stuff up, Star Wars Legion, or use any of the techniques shown here for your own armies of 40k, whatever it is. Share the pictures on the Discord community. It's fascinating to see what people are up to and the results that they get. And also, if you're struggling, need a bit of help, just drop me a question there, and I can get back to you with some guidance as well, just to help you out as you follow these techniques along. But happy painting, and enjoy painting your models.